Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited about our episode today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this podcast. Invest in a business any fool can run because someday a fool will. If I won't stand a little mismanagement, it's not much of a business. If it won't stand a little mismanagement, it's not much of a business. We're not looking for mismanagement, even if we can withstand it. Charlie Munger. Our guest today is a dear friend of the Culture Matters podcast, a mentor, an advisor, a student of not only investing in the markets, but a student of life. If you haven't heard him on the Culture Matters podcast in the past, you either don't like me or you're living under a rock. Gary Nash is back, someone that I hold in high regard in my inner circle as an advisor to myself as it relates to the markets. And today we're going to talk about a bit about Charlie Munger, but a bit about some of Gary's thoughts and the thoughts in general around some of his quotes in a tribute to an idol of mine and an influence on the Culture Matters podcast. If you listen to this show, recent graduation of the Great Reward, the passing of Charlie Munger, 99 years old on November. Hope I want to get this right. I think it's November 20. It was November 28th or 29th, and almost was going to turn 100 January 1st, and he's no longer with us, but he's with us in spirit. So we have Gary back to talk about Charlie. Thanks for coming back, Gary.
Good morning, Jay, to you and to your audience. It's good to be with you again.
It's going to really bother me if I don't get this date of when I forgot what day it was for a second there. I just got to make sure I say, yeah, November 28th. I was right. 1924 to 2023. Dang, first thing, what an unbelievable life for a second, right? 99 years old. We've had conversations on this podcast before about seeing less ahead of you than behind you kind of thing. You've mentioned that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've said that. I've personally said that I've lived more days. I've lived more days than I have left to live. That type of thing. And some people find that very sad. And I say, no, that's not sad. That's just reality. The point of it is if you are in tune with yourself, if you are in touch with yourself, that it is a blessing to have lived as long as I have, and definitely as long as Charlie did, and know who you are and love what you do and have a passion for who you are. I never had the opportunity to meet Charlie Munger, but I did know of him. But what I do know of him is something he comes across as a person I would like, meaning that. He comes across as a person that was totally passionate about what he did. Okay, yes, he was worth. I think his worth was like a little over $2 billion, and I don't
Yeah.
mean to be flippant like that. That's a huge amount of money, but. Well, it's more than a huge amount of money. It's almost an indescribable amount of money. But from what I gather, he never worked for the money. He loved what he did. He lived in the same house. He and his wife lived in the same house for 70 years. So the money was there, but there was not the 14,000 or 20,000 square foot mansion, the yacht, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He just loved building things. There's always a debate if people in finance or people in investments do they actually build things? And I argue, yes, you do build things. You find those things that you do love, you want to invest in them, and you want to build them, and you want to give them the resources or to provide the environment for that company to grow and for their solution to spread. So that's building something. So it seems like that's what he was very much into. And then he had an architecture side of him. He had ideas of designing different type of buildings and stuff like that. I have to admit I didn't like them, but okay, that was his that was his solution. And then I guess that's where the money comes into play because he could make his visualization a realization
It's hilarious
versus
though,
me
because
mine versus mine is just a visualization and it stays on the paper right now. So
yeah, I think there was an expose of a dorm that he created that had like no windows or something. I
yeah,
don't.
yeah.
He's
And
an
I
interesting
disagree
guy.
with his. I okay. You can't. You know, this is the point of like of debate. You don't become hostile, but I mean, he had reasons for that. I didn't agree with him, but he gave his reasons for his design. And then that's
Mhm.
all you can ask for a person. Then you just come and say, well, no, I don't think this works, this works. And that's the debate to create an even better design. And so, you know,
How about this quote from Charlie? I constantly see people rise in life who are not the smartest, sometimes not even the most diligent, but they are learning machines. They go to bed every night a little wiser when than when they got up, and boy, does that help, particularly when you have a long run ahead of you.
well, it makes sense. You meet many people like that. Now, let me say this. I believe in education. There's nothing wrong with being educated. But what you have to do is have, and what he's pointing out too, is what you have to do is have a love for learning, a curiosity, a curiosity and want to learn more things. And so I would say people that tend to rise in life, there are those who just chase the money, yes, just chase the money or they just chase the fame, whatever. But then there are many of those that rise in life because they have a curiosity about life. They have a curiosity about things. They want to learn things, and they believe that okay, I did the schooling, but what I did that's enough. They don't believe that. They believe there's something. There's every day there is something to learn, something to expand your mind, something to expand yourself. And if more of us were like that, it truly we would truly have a better world,
Mm.
because you just have this curiosity of knowledge, you just have this curiosity of people, and you want to learn, you want to experience. And if you're as here as long as he has 99, imagine what he has seen since 1920 to now, the
Mm.
changes in technology, the changes in society, the changes in people. It's just an amazing life.
Do you think that the investor becomes more valuable over time as opposed to, like, let's say somebody working with their hands? Age is going to start working against them if they have to pick up rocks or, plumbing, or what I'm thinking physical labor. As they age, it's going to be harder and harder to do that. You think when it comes to investing, like the listeners that are listening, it's something that one could do into their, the older they get, the more experience they have, the more things they've experienced. They're not using their physical body, but they're, as long as their mind stays sharp, they can get better with age.
Well, you can get better with age. I'm sort of hesitant because I'm thinking it's how you define investor, meaning that okay, there are investors what I would consider the short term, that they're only looking for the money, the immediate return, et cetera, et cetera. But then there are the investors that they invest in what they truly believe in and what they are passionate about. This is why I tell small retail investors who want to get involved within the equity arena, the stock markets, just another name is that. To start out, invest in those products that you use and that you love. If you are a Verizon customer, Verizon has a stock. Buy the stock. You pay them. Let them pay you. But if you believe in that, if there's soaps, if there's any type of product, just look around and then find out if they're a public company. And if you love that product, you support that product. You invest in it and you grow with the company.
How about
So,
this?
do, so
Go ahead.
can that person get better with age? Yes, they can get better with age, but they also keep in mind as one gets older, I guess their quality, their needs change. So therefore, what was good for you when you were in your 20s might not just be as good for you in your 40s or 50s or 60s.
I just read something that Warren, 95% of his wealth came after 65 years old.
Yeah, you see that?
And it was alluding to compounding interest. So what is compounding interest for those that may not have heard the term?
Well, compounding interest is basically you just you keep everything you keep everything in the same investment, but interest is being paid and it's just accumulating interest, and you're reinvesting, and it's over and over and over again. It just builds. You're building wealth, so to speak. Once again, a lot of people are short term traders, meaning
Mm,
that they buy something and then like they're out of it within a year, 2 years, 3 years. Now 3 years doesn't sound like it's short term, but it really is short term. But then there are some people that they buy something and they hold it to the end. I can tell you two stories. The company has a different name, but there was the tobacco company, RJR Reynolds, and there were people that were worked as employees at RJR Reynolds, and the employees bought the stock. And I remember one daughter said when she inherited her father's stock, Daddy said, "Sell everything, but don't sell the stock."
wow.
Because it is just growing and growing and growing. And I believe, and stop me if I told you, but I'll just repeat it again for your audience. I know I had a case where a woman, I was looking for lost property, and a woman, a widow, I called her, and I told her her husband left her stock, and then she was saying, "Oh, he wasn't a good provider, he was a no good, blah 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 blah." And I said, "Well, do you know that you really have a lot of money here? Your husband worked for the railroad, and he bought stock, and it's just split compounded interest and everything like that, and now you like have a $500,000 or something like that that is coming to you." And then she says, "Oh, what a lovely man he was. I thought he was great. I miss him so much." you know, that's compounding. And that's investing, and that's holding your investment to the end.
Yeah, that's a powerful thought that um we could sell something, we could sell something and then inevitably cash out too soon is the lesson there, or hold on to it, and there's a possibility that it could end up being more return than all the other things we made money on in the short term.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point of it is, what I'm making is that you have to know yourself as an investor and what you want to accomplish and what you need. I mean, think of those who owned AT&T stock before the split, and then when AT&T split in seven companies, those companies grew to be giants. I mean, well, you mentioned Warren Buffett. Imagine if you bought one share of Berkshire Hathaway like maybe 20 years ago and you held it. You would be you without question, with one share, be a millionaire.
Yeah, I think someone just sent me an article. It was $100 of Berkshire A purchased when Charlie got involved in this with Warren, and which is in the 70s. Today would be 4 grand. So $100
Yeah,
today would be 4 grand. So I think like a million would be like 4 billion.
yeah, yeah,
Imagine that.
yeah. And these are people that, and I'm talking about the investors that invested in Berkshire Hathaway. They believed in the company. They believed in the management of the company. Because aside believing in the product, you have to believe in the management of the company and where the company is going. Because sometimes the managements are bad, and it was an ill fit. And so instead of getting this, you have two options. You either get rid of the current management that's there because you don't believe their vision, or that's when you have to say, well, I'm going to cut my losses, because but by then there shouldn't be any losses, but I'm going to cut my losses and sell.
It's also in that stream of thought. It's interesting because the longer the time horizon, hey, maybe the higher likelihood of a poor management could come into fashion. And I say that because people pass away, people retire. What for 10 years, I could have a strong management that I really believe in. They could pass away, they could retire, and someone could replace them that is not who was once there. So I'm curious, maybe that's part of the reason he talked about the business model meaning so much is that certain types of businesses may be able to withstand poor management for a period of time or so. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, well, the gift of time is a valuable asset. And I also believe that, like you cannot feel sad about someone like Charlie Munger, who lived to be 99 years old. Or just recently they showed this picture of Jimmy Carter and his and the late First Lady Rosalind Carter that lived to that age. That's a gift, especially if you're in very good mind and health towards the end, because so many people don't get that gift of time. You've mentioned it here today that really Warren Buffett didn't accumulate most of his assets until after he was 65. Now imagine what he was going through at 65, prior to 65. You don't know when something's going to happen, but each day is a gift, because you have to think about how many people didn't live to receive this gift, people that didn't make it to 30, 40, or 50 years old. Each day is a gift. And so the longer that you are here, you have a gift. And what you want to do is make as much as you can of that gift each day. That's why, going back to what you started out with, the learning, the person who may not have all the education, but they just have this desire to learn. They just have this curiosity. I mean, there is so much to learn, and each day that you're given is a gift. And so you want to try to educate yourself each and every day.
Here's another one. We are all learning, modifying, or destroying ideas all the time. Rapid destruction of your ideas when the time is right is one of the most valuable qualities you can acquire. You must force yourself to consider arguments on the other side. Charles Munger.
Yeah, well, he's absolutely right there. And all he's saying, you have to have the ability to listen, to think, and then to basically come up to an analysis and then make the decision that is right for you. And so, and then that comes with experience too. People say, okay, this is what's presented to me, but I won't have to make a decision until like 3 months from now. But then you might not have 3 months. You don't know if you got, because things could change in 3 months. You have to rationalize everything as you see it at the time that you get all the information, and then you have to basically make that decision and have a rationalization for your decision. Going back to his architectural design, he did his whatever dormitory without windows. I disagree with it, but he listened to it. But he created, but he had his reasons for doing it. And so either whoever is approached with the design, either they will agree with it or they won't agree with it. And if they don't agree with it, they would give their reasons and he would be open to listening to it. Now that doesn't mean he would change his design, but then it doesn't mean that his design would get built either. So
He said, if something is too hard, we move on to something else. What could be simpler than that? It's part of their investment thesis.
well,
If,
I agree with that, and I have to say, and I'm thinking that in a different way. I think about myself personally. You have to know when to throw in the towel. Not because something is hard, but when something is not working, you got to know when to cut the rope.
why?
It's just not, it's not moving you towards your personal objectives, et cetera, et cetera. It's not working for you. So I have to admit that I am guilty. I just do not. I try to be in it that I'm going to win it no matter what, but then it may not be a winnable situation for me. I should cut
Powerful.
and move on.
Um, well, this is actually something you had said. Kind of the quote is, "The best armor of old age is a well spent life perfecting it."
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, again, this goes down to the basis. Time is a gift. It truly is a gift that's given to someone. And I think if everybody wakes up and realize that each day is a gift and you want to maximize the most that you can out of each day, you're going to grow, you're going to learn, and it is a life well spent.
You know what's interesting? I just realized like a lot of these quotes that I'm seeing on Goodreads of Charlie, they're all in they're they're categorized under investing, but they're not really about numbers and spreadsheets, and it's all about like psychology and people and history and just philosophy, ways to look at things. So, I don't know. It's interesting because one of the things that I've read is, Ben Graham looking at the business, or I'm sorry, the stock, not just as a stock, but as an underlying business. And if we take that a little bit further, there's people, right? People a part of a business. So my question to you is, you met a lot of people throughout your career, networked, got to know CEOs. How much of business is about the people?
That depends on who you ask and what time you're in. Um, that's a hard question to answer because I think that unfortunately we are in a different type of paradigm. I don't think I'm not saying that it's over, but the loyalty that companies have to their employees and the loyalty that employees have to their company, that is something that seems to be deteriorating as
Mm,
time goes on. Uh, um, I miss hearing the stories of some. I really do. I miss hearing the stories of someone who started a company when they were pushing a broom. Like my father. I'll use my father's example. He started at his company, Cooper Sportswear, pushing a broom, and then when he finished, he was like a senior vice president of winter production for the company. I miss hearing more of those stories like that of someone who's worked their way up, and they've been with the company and they're loyal to the company and the company is loyal to them,
mm.
so that's a hard question to answer. I have to think about that more.
It's powerful. In closing, um, what would you say is what we can take away from the life lived of somebody like a Charlie Munger, who started out as an attorney? Well, I think originally in the war, helping planes not crash, or in the military rather, and then became a lawyer, meets Buffett, I guess a mentee, a friend, convinces him to get into investing and not law. I think he got into real estate development, made some money, and then started investing into businesses. And then in his mid 40s or late 40s, partnered with Buffett finally, right after the meeting him at I think 36, Buffett was 29. What do we take? And then of course living to 99, right? I had the gift of seeing him in person in 2023, right before at the annual shareholder meeting. What can we take away from a life Munger's a life lived like Munger, for our wannabe investors listening to this, wannabe business people, or our tenured business people, tenured investors.
I would say there's a couple of things that you can take away, in my opinion. The first one is love the gift of life and love to learn. Love to learn. Do not get caught up in consumerism, the things, so to speak, but love what you do and then go after it, and then know exactly what it is that you want, and then everything. I truly believe this, and it might be naive. Then everything else will come to you, meaning that if you like quilting blankets and that's a passion, quilt some blankets and quilt some blankets, and I'm almost sure that someone will come through and they'll see your work and say, that's pretty good. How much do you want for that blanket? And then it starts compounding
Mm,
compounding interest from there. But you want to love life, you want to love learning. And then also, I would say you want to love mentoring, giving back.
mm,
That's very important. You want to give back. Like you've had the opportunity to be blessed with XYZ, so you want to pay it forward, so to speak.
mm.
And those are the things I think some of the things I think you could take from his life. It was a life well lived.